Hi guys, and welcome to my latest review. Now what we have here today is a small interesting headphone amplifier. It's a hybrid construction, and that means that basically it uses tubes in its preamp section and it uses solid state technology transistors in power amp section. So today I'm quickly going to mention its build quality, connectivity, then sound quality of course, then a little bit about pairing, and yeah, I hope you'll enjoy this video. But just before I continue, I wanted to say big thanks to Hi-Fi Go. They're the online retailer that sent this unit in for a review. I like those guys, they're cool, they send things from time to time, and a few times I even trashed a little bit earphones they sent me because I didn't like their sound. But guys at Hi-Fi Go, they didn't say anything, they never tried to influence my opinion or anything, that's why I like them, and the link to their store is down below the video if you want to check it out. Now for the device itself, it's really small, but it feels quality made. For 99 bucks, and that's the price of this unit, you couldn't possibly ask for more. It's made of aluminum, it feels sturdy, it looks like sandblasted, some sort of matte finish. I really like it. I think, yeah, even the volume knob is made out of metal. It's very small. It's definitely a different approach compared to their previous TA05 headphone amp. It was also a hybrid with tubes and transistor stage, but it was much chunkier, vintage looking. But this one is much more compact, smaller. In my opinion, personally, it's cuter. I don't usually like bright and flashy colors, but I like this red knob, especially when it's turned on and the tubes light with orange color. It just matches really nicely. It looks cool. Oh, that leads me to connectivity. And on the back side here, it's pretty simple. We have two pairs of RCA connectors. One pair is your typical line level input, so you can connect your DAC or anything with analog output. The other pair is actually a pre-out. That means it's a variable output that you can control with this volume knob. It's a neat function, so if you want to do that, you can use this as a small preamp. Other than that, there's only a power jack left on the back side. It's 12 volts DC. Power brick is somewhere down here. I cannot reach it right now. Looks like a typical laptop power brick. Everything works fine. On the front panel, there's a power switch, of course. Then we have two headphone outputs, the bigger one 6.35 millimeters and the smaller one 3.5. And also on the right side you see another small 3.5 millimeters jack, and that's actually auxiliary input. That's the same type of analog input as the one pair of RCA connectors on the back. It's just another option for 3.5 millimeters connection, and you can just add another analog source to it. It increases its versatility. And again, for 99 bucks, great build, great connectivity. I'm really happy so far. Now I'll power it up real quick. And once turned on, you have to wait for just a few seconds until tubes warm up. Then you'll hear a slight click inside of the unit and you're ready to go. Now I won't talk much about specs, you can find them in the written review. I'll just say that this is a really powerful amp. It has 1.3 watts at its hands when it's feeding 32 ohms headphones. That's basically enough power to drive almost anything on the market. And while on that topic, I just wanted to mention this little amp is not suitable for sensitive in-ear models. For example, I tried it with several of mine's. It works, but when connected, you always hear a background hiss, like a static noise. And the volume knob, it gets too loud too quickly. There's just too much gain in this unit to be used comfortably with very sensitive EMs. You'll just have to accept it's not made for that, because this one is aimed straight at bigger and more difficult to drive cans like my hi-fi mens or anything else basically you can throw at it. And with that out of the way, it's time to move to the actual sound quality. But just before that, if you like this video, please click that button. If you really like this channel and the reviews I'm doing here, then consider becoming a patron maybe. If not, it's all cool. But let's talk sound. Now, if you expect it, because it has tubes, to sound really warm and really sweet, you would be wrong. This is not that kind of amp. There is certain softness to the bass region that feels nice and it's just soothing, and I think that part is coming from tubes. But other than that, it's actually fairly clear, crisp, and even slightly bright sounding amp tonally. But let's start with the bass region first. It definitely has a lot of weight, it has a lot of volume, it feels voluminous, and I like that. It's also a little bit softer. It's not that type of bass that's too firm and punchy, but it's more mellow, it's weighty. I feel there is enough depth there, I feel there is enough volume, but it's on a softer and more mellower side. And going upper in the mid bass, same story. It's just nice, soft, rounded mid bass. It's not overblown, it doesn't pollute everything, it doesn't melt into mid range. It really doesn't do that, which is great, but it gives a nice sense of warmth to the sound. And basically when we are talking about warmth, that's where it ends, because when we start listening to the mid range, it's just really clear. It's clear, it's crisp, it's present, and even slightly open. And I'll try to explain what that actually brings you. For example, let's say you're listening a song with a saxophone. And sax has that deeper body behind it. And because of that nice weighty bass line and nice soft mid bass, you hear a lot of body, its weight. But because of that clear and open and present mid-range and upper frequencies, you also hear a lot of texture. And I especially mentioned saxophone because that was one of the instruments that I really enjoyed listening through this amp. It just sounded so natural, at the same time warm and full, but actually very detailed and very textury. And the highest frequency are again same as the mid-range. They're clear, they're crisp, they're open. If anything, they might even be slightly brighter than its neutral, but not sweet, not tame. If you expected that because of tubes, you might look for their previous model. And I reviewed that one already, but I'll mention it a little bit later in comparisons part. Now to finish with other aspects of its sound character, let's talk about soundstage. It's decently wide. I use my hi-fi mens that have really decent soundstage, and I feel there is enough width, but there is no much sense of depth. Like everything is pretty much in a straight line from left to right. Layering is good, separation is good. I can hear air around the instruments, nothing is cramped, nothing is on top of each other, but there's just not much sense of depth. And that's okay. For this price, it's 99 bucks. And the last part I wanted to talk about is dynamics. Now, this amp sounds open, detailed. It has energy for presenting edges, for presenting crisp, small sounds. But if you want like huge dynamic swings, if you want punchy bass, if you want some sort of excitement, with the music that will quickly go up and down. I don't know, listening something like Daft Punk or things like that, it's probably not the best amp for that type of music. I find it most enjoyable when I'm listening something slower, with nice vocals, saxophones, other acoustic instruments, because it sounds full and soft and textury, but being fast and punchy and dynamic is just not its thing. And that actually leads me to few comparisons. First among them is with Topping E30. It's like go-to budget headphone amp that, I don't know, probably everybody is recommending these days. This is a fully solid state design. It's also very powerful. Now, when you compare it to this MT-602, it definitely sounds punchier. Bass has more grunt. It has more kick to it. Mid-range is a little bit cleaner, and edges are maybe a little bit cleaner, but actually xDuoo here reveals more of the texture. Maybe it's because of that upper mid-range presence and that openness, but somehow, even if it sounds softer dynamically and has slightly warmer mid-bass, it manages to dig more texture of the tone. So now I'm repeating myself, but listening to a saxophone or trumpet or something like this feels more natural and more revealing, more textury through xDuoo. But anything that's faster paced, that has more bass, that has just more drive in the recording, sounds a little bit livelier and punchier and more exciting with L30. And I switched through many songs, and to be perfectly honest, I couldn't decide for a winner. Sometimes I really preferred that dynamic and bass liveliness of L30. Sometimes in some slow tunes I preferred xDuoo. It's basically what you listen to the most, what types of music, and what's your preference. I cannot tell you what's the clear winner, because there is no clear winner here, to be perfectly honest. Now, another comparison that I wanted to mention, I don't have it with me anymore, but it's also xDuoo TA05. It's again tube, preamp, and solid state power amp. But that head amp has much different sound signature. It's even warmer in the bass, it's even bloomier with mid-bass, and that definitely goes to the mid-range with that amp. So mid-range sounds warm and fuzzy and big, but because of that, that head amp loses some texture. And it definitely cannot reveal all of the information that this one can. And when we speak about top end, about highest frequencies, TA5 feels slightly rolled off, slightly tamed, while this one doesn't. As I mentioned, if anything, this is slightly on the brighter side up top. And that makes significantly different character, and I think it will be easy for choosing. If you like your sound to be warm and sweet and like honey glazed and curvy everywhere, then TA5 might be just for you. If you like a little bit of softness and mellowness to the bass notes, but you actually want open mid-range and open high frequencies that can show you a lot of texture and just show you greater insight into the recording, then I think you would prefer this one. Personally, I do like MT-602 more. And in my opinion, there's only one thing you should be cautious about. I don't think you should pair it with overly bright headphones. You know, those that have like a peak in the upper mid-range, and sometimes it's not even a peak, it's like whole wide hill in the upper mid-range. Those headphones are already bright and very present in the same region as this headphone amp is. So those sort of combinations would probably give you too much of upper mid-range presence, and it could sound harsh and just unnaturally forward and exposed and edgy even. But for anything else that's just more neutrally voiced, or maybe darker even when we are talking about headphones, those should pair just nicely with this little amp. So in conclusion, it's a really decent $99 head amp. It has a really nice set of connectivities, you can use it as a preamp also. Build is great, finish is really nice. Sound, it has its own voicing, it's on a softer side but with a lot of texture and a lot of information. It's not that dynamic, but as I mentioned, for $99 it's a really good head amp. It's just on you to decide, do you think you would like this kind of voicing? Personally, I do, and especially for the slower music genres, I enjoyed it quite a bit. And that would be all for today, guys. Thank you for watching and see you next time.